All right, guys. I know you haven't heard from me in a while, but Gen Z back here with a very riveting story. All right, so what I want to talk about right now. If you don't know, Count Dankula is the gentleman right here in the beautiful Scottish beard. He is a Scot. He's a Scotsman, right? He made a video a while back. His real name is Marcus Meechan. Made a video a while back to annoy his girlfriend. So this is the context. He made this video because he thought it'd piss off his girlfriend. He made it as a joke. He is a comedian. All right. So what did he do, and why are we talking about him today? So this is what he did. He went on YouTube and he taught his dog, or at least his girlfriend's dog, to raise its paw in the air when he said "Akylum" or "Gas the Jews." It was meant to be satire. Was meant to be funny. Scottish Scottish officials did not think that this was hilarious, and they decided to take him to trial over hate speech laws. He was in trial for over 2 years. Well, excuse me, almost 2 years. And today being March 20th, he was found guilty of being overtly offensive. Think I'm ruining the vernacular there, but he was actually found guilty of these hate speech laws. Now, this is a big deal to me. The reason why this is a big deal to me is now it is kind of sending this isn't the only place that's doing this. This was a landmark case for the Scots, right? Because it was the first time they had really tried to really go to fruition. It was very much in the public eye in the UK and all over Europe. This was extremely popular, even here in the United States. I knew his name. A lot of my friends knew who this person was, right? And he became very popular due to this case. On the flip side of that, he is being convicted. And he is facing jail time because of what he said. The words that he said were in the wrong sequence. They didn't take the context into the courtroom. The video was never actually supposed to be shown in the courtroom, so they just had to take it on its merits, and they decided that he was a white supremacist, which is very ironic because this gentleman is a communist. He's a self-admitted communist. And a lot of things, him and I actually disagree, but on this, for someone to go to jail for any speech, and yes, I do mean all speech. I don't think that this is a good thing. And the way the left is starting to frame themselves is ending up being a very, very, very bad thing. But we'll get back to this, and then I want to go into the theory of the left right now and how I feel like they are setting themselves up for a bad president. So, this gentleman, he has been convicted. He will be sentenced later today, and I'm going to go live as soon as his sentence is done, shortly after I actually publish this video. And this is just to put this into context, right? What the Scottish is doing, and it's not even the Scots. Canadians have decided to start censoring speech. We're seeing censored speech in California and New York, where people are being ticketed and can go to jail for saying the wrong word. More popular one is misgendering in California. Now, look, I don't have a problem. I think that most of the population doesn't have a problem that if you want to identify as something else. My problem comes in when I'm going to jail or anyone else is going to jail. That is a freedom of speech problem. When you meet speech with violence, you're going to get a pushback of violence, and this really sets a bad precedence, especially when we're talking about later generations when people start deciding more and more things are hate speech. That doesn't really end. Once you've decided that this category is now hate speech and it is considered assault and it is now illegal, right? There's nothing to stop anything from becoming hate speech from that point. Coming to and from whatever side you may be on. This is not a left versus right thing. That's something very difficult to get across. This is humanity versus just evilness. And this is extremely, as Jordan Peterson says, this is reprehensible. When you start censoring speech like this, where you're saying you're going to go to jail for what you said, that's a big problem. Especially when you think that speech should be met with violence. That's a big problem. And yes, I do mean all speech. Meet violence with violence, but once you start meeting speech with violence, now you have literally given up the moral high ground in this whole thing. You've given it up, you've given it away. But furthermore, I do hope that Count Dankula makes it through this, and my hope is that they reverse it. But I don't think that's going to happen because he was convicted. I don't see how you can reverse that after it's already been done. But I want you to sum this up from the left, and I used to consider myself stemming from the left, but in recent months, I'm actually starting to figure out that the left is starting to become the movement of oppression, and I'm gonna lay out for you why I think this is. So first off, they want to take weapons away, and for whatever reason they want to deem it, they want to take weapons away. This has become now a hallmark of the left, is they want to have more gun regulations. But once you start getting down to the basics, like the question becomes, why just the AR-15? There's many other semi-automatic weapons out there. Automatic weapons have been illegal since the 80s, right? I don't know where you're getting this, and I've been to gun shows. They do background checks. In almost all states, there are background checks, right? And I'm all for background checks, but when you're talking about banning a particular weapon, the AR-15, all right? Well, why not the AK-47 or the 74? Why not the automatic shotgun? Why not any pump action rifles? Why not and why not those? They're not any more powerful or less powerful than the AR-15. In fact, the AK-47 is more powerful than the AR-15. And the AK-74 shoots the same round. The AK-47 shoots a 7.62 round, which is much bigger, and it hurts a lot more. Even if you got body armor on, that sucker hurts like hell. Take it from me. It really hurts. Right? And the 5.56 round, you can almost walk through it. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt, but I'm much more scared of a 7.62 round. You can lob that a lot further. So why not that weapon? Right? It's always weird when you say it's just one weapon. Just let go of one weapon. If you've ever had to deal with a child, and you have to take away some toys, or you have to take away something from them, you know that you never take it all away at once. You take a piece of it away. That's really what's happening when it comes to the left, and you can see this in debates with Ben Shapiro. You can see this in debates, you know, across the country. Even Sean Hannity. I know I don't really like Sean Hannity. I love Ben Shapiro, but I don't really like Sean Hannity. But eventually, you do get down to the leftist view that, yeah, they just want to ban all weapons, right? So we're disarming the general public. Okay. Now we're going to get back to Count Dankula. Now we're going to start disarming speech. Now we're gonna take away your speech and say that that's violence, right? And that takes away, especially in the UK and even here, where anything that can be even construed as racist is shut down immediately. How long before that becomes a violation of law, especially in the UK, when you're talking about young girls in several towns in the UK being raped? And we're not talking about just a few girls, thousands of girls being raped, and the police are afraid to go after them because they don't want to be deemed racist, because they're terrified of these laws. They're terrified of these hate speech laws. You've now taken the ability to point to and accuse somebody of something, right? So now we've disarmed the population, we've censored the speech, and we've taken away the ability to accuse somebody else of something as long as they don't meet a certain demographic. Scary time. One of the things that you've got to understand, I know that this is usually a buzzword, and I really don't mean to hit as a buzzword, but back to things where you're setting up a platform for people like Hitler. In any totalitarian country, when you start, the first thing that a totalitarian does is starts taking away speech. They want to disarm, and they'll disarm you, and it'll be done with thunderous applause, as the quote goes. And then you take away their ability. You say that that's all their fault of why you are in what you are in. Right now, it's a bad time to be a white male because we're being blamed for all of this. And I really don't like playing identity politics. I hate identity politics, but the fact of the matter is that anytime you talk about these hate speech laws, the first thing that comes up is, well, yeah, it's a part of dismantling the patriarchy. And that's another scary thought the left is coming at white males. They're blaming them for the economy. They're blaming them for oppression and the state of minorities and anybody who is poor. And then they're going to take away the same people's rights to bear arms, their right to freedom of speech, their right to accuse, either socially or through the law. That is a bad recipe, and I hope that we stop. It's extremely a bad recipe for any society to live by. Screw that it's white males. Any demographic that you are blaming, where you're placing all of these burdens onto one demographic. Back in Hitler times, it was the Jews. You go back even further, and people used to place that on the gypsies. You go back even further, and they used to place it on the Irish. It doesn't matter what the demographic is. Insert X demographic here. I'm not making a case for the white male. Insert demographic here, and then you start seeing things like genocide. When you start blaming a whole demographic for all of the woes in the world, and that's what we are doing. When you sit back and you say it's all the patriarchy's fault, you are simply blaming a demographic for all the woes in the world. And when you say patriarchy, you do mean white male. That sets a bad, if you've thought about this as a pyramid, the base is, who am I going to blame? Now, how am I going to take their rights? Now, how am I going to, limit their movement? I mean, that's what it comes to. Is now we're going to start limiting movement, and especially in places like this, you are starting to see this. You are starting to see it compound. It doesn't happen overnight. We always like to look back at what happened in the past and say, oh, that happened overnight. It didn't happen overnight. It happened over the course of 2, 3, sometimes 4 decades. Between legislation, social norms, and views of people. It's a slow, it progresses. And if you don't reverse that progression when you start heading down the road of blaming one demographic, if you don't reverse it and start thinking to yourself like, oh, I think I might be making a mistake, it ends up being a really bad time. And this is where you start laying those foundations for the mistake, where you will lose when it comes to people looking back going, oh my God, what the hell were we thinking? It's a scary time. It's a scary time to see a gentleman go to jail because of a joke. He'll even admit himself. I'll post, I'll link some of the videos for you, but he'll even admit himself that the judge threw out even looking at the video. That's to me, that's ridiculous. If you're going to convict a man, I mean, let's say you murdered somebody and there's a video of it. You want a video, right? In this case, there was a video of this. There were several videos leading up to it. He was joking about how he was going to teach the dog to say Heil Hitler. And, excuse me, to put its paw up. I thought, personally, I thought it was funny, but a lot of people didn't see it that way. But honestly, whether or not you thought it was funny or not, don't believe. There's a lot of comedians that I don't think are very funny. It doesn't mean they should go to jail for not being funny. This is very scary precedents to set. Just like I said, just a lot of random thoughts there, kind of where I'm seeing the left go. And I hope to God, I really hope to God that this gets somebody on, I can't identify on the left anymore. Not exactly saying that I want to be on the right, but I cannot identify as on the left anymore. This is just too far against what I believe is right. So, let me know what you guys think. You're always more than welcome to comment. I hope they're constructive comments. I've had a few kind of really nasty comments the past couple of weeks, but I'd really like something more constructive. But you're more than welcome to put it down there. And hey, you know what? I mean, this was a little bit more depressing. I don't like being depressing, but remember, always get the coffee. In fact, speaking of coffee, it's time for my second cup. I hope you guys have